What does Rav Shelomo Zalman Auerbach hold in regards to microphone, telephones, and Zoom, these types of technologies, saying a bracha on one end, answering on the other? We already discussed this in the past. This is actually part four. Now that we're going to continue with, and we're going to see in great detail what Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's opinion is in regards to microphones. This is the mother of all tshuvas, so to say. This is the main responsa that Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach has. This is in the Shilos Veteshuvos Minchas Shlomo Chilek Aleph Simin Tes. Talks about using a microphone, a telephone, a type of loudspeaker during the week in order to daven in shul, and the halachas of it regarding Shabbos. So first over here, he begins with a whole introduction about what a microphone exactly is. And he explains that from a halachic perspective, a microphone is koilet gali kol. It collects the sound waves and v'hoifech oisam lizeramim chashmelim, and it turns it into an electric current or an electric flow. It takes our sound and then changes it into an electric flow and into electric current. That's what it does over here. Now, it changes through the microphone, right? Talks about what it's built from. It's built from kofetzas pachsha machasa osu al pi roiv mafach dak mipach dak. It's a microphone is made from a type of a tin box, so to say, which has a cover that's made from a thin type of tin metal, the gumish. Gumish means it's elastic, it stretches. Hanuach lakabel ashpas megali kol, which makes it very easy to receive and accept the human voice. This mechase zeh hanikra memavarna. This covering, which is made out of like a type of metal or tin, which is also elastic, that's called the memavarna. This is the key word. The memavarna is the membrane. I have asked 5 rabbis, most of who are rabbis of shuls, what this word mimavarna meant, and they didn't know. Why? Because when I originally learned this shuba for the first time, I saw it quoted in the Dershu Mishnah Brura, and they said, start from this paragraph. Yeah, you start from that paragraph, you won't do yourself any favors, okay? So I started from over there, and I didn't understand what he was saying with this mimavarna is. That's because I didn't learn this introduction to the tshuva, and frankly, neither did these rabbis. So this covering is called the mavarna. The mavarna in English means a membrane, refers to a body part of a person. This is a term that's being used and borrowed and implanted over here, transferred to these halachas that we're learning about microphones. Now, what is this mavarna? Mehudak legareri pachem hanimsaim toch kofetzes pach. It is attached to these particles of this tin that is inside this whole box, this metal box in the microphone. Derech hamavarna v'hapechem over zerim misoylo chashmolis o min hareshes. So basically, what happens over here, we know we talk, and then it goes in the flow, the electrical flow, and there's a type of net. V'yosha pechem, which is literally a coal, who moivil toiv v'azerim over bo benakel. So since over here we have this coal, so to say, which transfers very nicely, and the electrical flow that goes through easily, when you have a lot of particles that are crowded together, they're getting pushed one towards the other. You have a strength of the flow, or it's strong. If they're only touching each other gently, then the flow is just a little and it's very weak. In a microphone, mogbirim alpi roiv b'magbir electroni muvarim lim rokim the ezras chutim. So now you have over here this flow, the electrical flow that comes from the microphone. It strengthens based on electronic strengths that transfer to further differences with the help of the chutim. The chutim is the like wires. right? Kimo telephone, such as on a phone, right? Even nowadays, you get the phone for the landlines above ground still or underground, some places. Oba oven ba'ochem al chuti l'mashal b'radio, or for example on a radio. Kachim magiyam l'machshir hakoilit hamachil azniya. That's how it reaches the ear. O ramkol, or take a microphone or loudspeaker. Ahofech as a zui hazedem b'chazara l'koilos, which transfers these types of waves and returning to voices, these sound waves. Ikoro shel haramkol o hazinahu. Okay, so when he says the hazina, like over here, he says the main point of a loudspeaker, or I think a hearing aid, is hu shehu mechil salil hamakif barzel v'zahoifach lemagnet kishoiver b'solil zerem. So it contains a type of path which surrounds metal and turns it over through magnetic technologies through an electrical path. Hamagnet moshech elev imavarna. I don't understand exactly what's happening over here, but I'm just trying to do the best I could. The magnet pulls from this membrane. Hamagnet moshech elev imavarna shel pachdach v'gamish. This magnet pulls from the membrane of this type of thin metal that's elastic on the microphone. Koach hamashicha shall have magnet talu b'midas hazerem ha'oiver b'salil. The strength of this continuation and this pull of the magnet is dependent upon the strength of the flow which is going through on the path. Kasher hazerem chazak mashichas imamarna chazaka. When the electrical flow is strong, so then the membrane is also strong. And when it's going to accept a weak flow, also the magnetic strength will be very weak. Microphone, when a person speaks or sings into a microphone, he is now shaking the air. Whenever we talk, the air in front of us, you could feel there's some movement. He's shaking the air through the sound waves that the individual who is speaking or singing is creating in front of him. Consequently, that caused the membrane in the microphone to start moving as well. Moving a davar shalide has a zoom mishtane chilufov fifios apechem behetim lekoach halacha shem avarim ezazein v'lechotzim alapacha ulefiyar emor podem yoytze shashinuyim. What?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, nothing. Ulefiyar emor podem yoytze shashinuyim halalu mishanim games koach hazerem. Right, so now, based on what we just said, before we talk about these changes that are happening in the electrical flow, right? Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's weak. It tries to mimic the person who is talking or singing in there. Also because this flow is changing. Now we go to the next page of this tshuva. Because it's changing, pam yigadol, pam yatin. Sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's weak. You are causing, based on the sound level that you have, a change in the magnet that will then change from the membrane. Nimsa sha'af kama mavarna bezol shal machshir kol titnadin mamish koisin atandu shizas uhiha kol gamru lahan nesim mavarna shal microphone various mezet savir shmeziva mamish koisin aduzum shidas lechila alidei meistra kol shal adam medaber bikibas a microphone va kol nish mishum ka kilu hu yoisim mamish medaber. Fine, we got that point. Now he's saying like this: a type of loudspeaker or microphone is different than a hearing aid. Because bekach shenitim lahavir darcho zeramim yoisher chazakim v'ligrams zazuyim chazakim shel ma'avarna. When it's a type of microphone that has the ability to move, right, these flows that are stronger and sound it off better, so to say. A lot of times on the type of loudspeakers, you have a type of plastic that's attached to it, or a carton, type of carton. The halacha is that Ramkol Yeshorch lahagber lefnegim and magber electronics zuzugim and magim and microphone. Nimsa shav luach haramkol marir esavir shvaziva yotzeb gal lekol dio kosim agal mishnasim techlit mishra kol achyoiter chazak. The magber shel Ramkol yesh masvas, or there's a type of regulator. Shebezoso nitin lashanos esagbara. So in other words, there's types of regulators in there that could change through the loudspeaker based on the sound. Now that is the introduction. Now we get into the actual tshuva. After this entire description that we just said, Nira, Shashameya, Kol, Shofar, Mikra, Megilah, Alidei, telephone, Aram, Kol, someone who hears Megilah or shofar through a phone or a type of microphone or a loudspeaker. And even if we're not going to say that the voice changes through this. And regarding shofar, we could say that it's considered as if he is blowing the shofar in a type of pit. According to Rav Shelomo Zalman Auerbach, he would not fulfill your obligation at all. Mishum the davka kishiroishim shmiyasa oizen nasa beofen yashal yidei kol shofar shishmaze esav yorve yoitzerbo kali kolas chashikveko shofar. Specifically, when you hear with your ears what's happening, the actual sound waves that was produced from the shofar, which caused the air, which caused movements in the air, caused the air to shake. Like we said, when we talk, the air in front of us moves. That's called sound waves. Then we could fulfill our obligation. Conversely, when the... Okay, this goes over here. Conversely, when what? Conversely, when the ear is only hearing movements caused by the membrane of the microphone or the speaker system, even though it sounds like the actual voice, even so says Rav Shelomo Zalman Auerbach, you're only hearing voices from movements that came into the membrane of the microphone, and now that's being produced. It's not the voice of the actual shofar. It's not the sound of the actual shofar. Just like if you would hear a recording of someone who blew shofar, you certainly wouldn't fulfill your obligation. Even though that the movements from the type of wires that is in the recorder causes the movement from the membrane, it's causing the sounds of the voices, mamish the kol shofar. It sounds like the shofar. It's obvious that you would not fulfill your obligation of shofar. Since right now you're only hearing the voices that came in through the membrane of the microphone, and it's from the recorder of a local shofar, it's not the shofar. So to over here. The next paragraph he says, microphone this is good if the microphone or the loudspeaker was only strengthened for pinpointing, aka focusing the voice of the person that will be heard also from a far distance, in afar cheses, similar to an afar cheses, which is going to be a type of like an earpiece or a type of hollow pipe. Osin or chalo, that's the hollow pipe. It could diamond something similar after the az. And that counts as if you're hearing the voice of a person, meaning you're talking from one pipe and then it's going through to the other pipe, the other end. There's no electronics involved. But the truth is that this is not so. What happens? The core or the wire that is coming from the microphone, what it's doing is it's taking that flow, that electrical flow, and it's changing it. It's taking the sound waves and then converting it into an electrical flow. That causes consequently the mavarna, the membrane from the microphone, to move, as we discussed. Which consequently produces a voice. That creates a new voice. But it's a major mistake to think that these wires are cords that they could answer, that they actually have the ability to transfer the actual voice as when it came in through the flow. Had it not been that there was going to be electrics involved over here, below magnet, and if there would not be a magnet of the membrane, that the voice would just cause a change in the air and nothing else, in the light, nothing else. Here it is. Therefore, I wonder on all those rabbis shehetiru lishmoa mikra Megilah derech ma'bir kol ve'eich lo samu libam l'davar zeh. I say, I wonder on these rabbis who allow a microphone being used during Megillah or a loudspeaker. How did they not focus to this matter? How did they not focus on this matter? And think about this. You're not hearing the Megillah when you hear it. You're hearing the voice that came in through the membrane of the microphone shel adam. You're not hearing the local mikra Megilah shel adam. Mistar ani shelafiza nimsa shanosh mesher aznam kaveda mishmo mishtamshim machshish shel microphone v'telephone kotum lakarev v'eskol madar belazim fiza einam yotzim klali de choy v'shofer mikra Megilah v'kedam. They would not fulfill their obligation at all of Megillah and shofer. You're not even allowed to make a bracha. Can't make brachos on this listening. Kevan sha'af gam heim shoymim rakol tenuda shel mavarna. They are only hearing the voice that's coming in through the membrane. This is similar to By the way, this could be that if you're blowing shofar into a type of pipe, you wouldn't fill your obligation. That's what he says in footnote 2. This is similar to Lamash Mestapik Halachas Katanos. This is the tshuva that all the Sfarim are quoting from Halachas Katanos. What does he say in Chelik Beisim and Pei Beis? Eidim that saw that what? Someone do an avera. Shero oivri avera b'soich mashin istayar b'marash shel zachuchas. They saw it in a mirror. They saw someone sin in a mirror. Lavana vehekira hakol beperish, and they recognize it because of shuhu doimel. Mashakov is similar to what the Gemara says that ria b'mayimo b'ashosha slavria hi klal. Gemara says that if you see something through clear water or glass, it's not considered seeing. It's a whole discussion of itself, massive discussion. Look over there, the beracha by kiddush lavana. Technically, you could be able to say kiddush lavana through a window. You're not supposed to. Fine, Gemara and brachos. Yeah, look at the tshuva of the Shvos Yaakov. He has length b'ke'ein zel in kamat varm v'hayna mishum the oifin kazeh in royin mamish as guf davar. You can't see the actual thing that's happening. Afal pi shabim kosvu kim gamin in tefilo v'talmud Torah de lochosh mamish koreya avim mikol makom kefi sheshamati memumchim near the ein zeh kol kach pasha. This is not so simple. V'devrayim af kam zeh chosh mamish koreya as guf hadavar rak le'inyan edus hachodesh amar b'gamar the ein zeh edus. This is not so simple at all, right? Regarding edus, it's regarding testimony. It's not testimony. Imkein even though we can't compare hearing to seeing, we're talking about seeing over there. Nevertheless, kal v'chomer hulin. No. So kal v'chomer in our scenario. She'ein shoymem klal kol adam. You don't hear the voice of a person. Kiyim kol tenudas shemavar. And you only hear the movements from the membrane. Asher here mechak amamesh es meisri hakol shel adam. What it tries to do is it tries to imitate the voice of a person. So the idea over here is that what? Is that the whole thing is a joke and that it doesn't work and it's only a mere imitation. That's what this is over here.
I think we want to erase.
Okay, Meisrei over here, Google says is the strings of the voice of a person, or the chords. Meisrei kol, the vocal cords. That's what it means. So what it tries to do is it tries to imitate the vocal cords of a person. Next paragraph. Here's this other point that we already learned. The Beis Yosef and Orach Chaim Siman Hey, we already saw this in numerous chuvas. Sifchov says that if you listen to Kaddish, you should not answer Sheshamei Babayis Kaddish in La Nosim Yesh Be'emse Makom Matunov. If you hear Kaddish from another place and in between the place where they're saying Kaddish and you, there's either feces or idolatry, you're not allowed to answer according to the Beis Yosef, according to one opinion. This is a Yesh Omer, an opinion of those who say this in the Shulchan Aruch over there. This is my favorite part, I think, these 4 words. Botol Gam Hayachatz Shebenehem. Meaning that since there is something that separates, that is severs in between the mavarach, the person reciting the bracha, and the listener, batal gam hayacha shebeneim, the connection between them gets cut, it gets severed. Very nice explanation of this halacha. V'im kain, av shenechu b'zeh gedol v'yachrid mikamel m'hachi l'dino lo. Even though it's a major machlokes, like we saw in Rav Baj's stupid, do we hold this way or not? After all, it's just an opinion. There are those who say in the Shulchan Aruch, according to the way that the Shulchan Aruch originally passed, it seems like you didn't hold that way. Mikol makom nira, the shiny hosam shagam b'makom hametun of shopper nishma kol. Over there is different, because even in a place where it's dirty, you hear the voice. El shasham osulanos. Right? Just it's prohibited to enter amin. Mashinkin harchosh lagamri nifsach ben elam hakol ben hefach rak. Over there is different. Over there, when it comes to the feces case, no. You hear the voice. It's just you can't answer because of another reason. Over here, there's no voice. You don't hear nothing. Because your voice, your sound waves, already got converted into electrical currents. It's no longer a voice anymore. Therefore, you're not good. The ear cannot hear it anymore. From the wire, from the cord, it's no longer sound waves anymore. Magnet. Okay, everyone would agree in this case that the connection is severed. It's cut off. It's done. Between what? Between the person who's listening to the Megillah and the person who's laning from the Megillah or who's blowing the shofar.
There is davar matunah in between.
No, when there's a microphone. In the davar matunah, we have more of a shaila because the maisa you hear the voice. Right. Now you just have another shaila within that. You have something else. Over here, you don't even hear the voice. For sure, you're no good. Right? You're not the voice. Then he quotes, this is the halacha katanos that I meant to say before that they all quote. I halachos katanos, he was asked if you were sitting in a cave and reading the Megillah and someone heard from a distance an echo from the cave. And also shofer, did you fulfill your obligation? It wasn't an echo, it was the actual voice. The truth is that no, since it needs to be the actual voice, it's considered as if the voice is like flying in the air. So he says, even though I didn't merit, says Rav Shelomo Zalman Auerbach, to properly understand the intention of this halacha katanos, it's a kal v'chomer for our case, nevertheless. For sure, certainly one would not fulfill his obligation. Right on track. Nevertheless, regarding our case, he says, we could compare the case if you're blowing shofar or if you're reading the Megilah to imagine that you have over here, if you're going to press a button with your fingers. Al yedei zeh shaloichitz be'etzba al kaftor chashma oli v'gorim bekach le'ashmiya kol shofer u'Megilah mamish kekol sh'adam hatokeo kor. Imagine you have this. You pull open a type of video that you have of someone that read the Megilah, right? And then you play it back. And you push the button, you play it back. Could you fulfill your obligation? Certainly not. That certain would be good if you're playing a recording, if you're playing a video. That certain wouldn't be good. The pasharu, it's obvious that it has to be. Oh, here I translate the word. That the word has to be from the vocal cords. The voice can't come from your fingers. It has to come from your actual vocal cords. So too over here. If what the voice of a person, now you're going to be shaking in a direct way and it's going to be coming from the membrane, which will cause the voice to now go further, I have a doubt. Does that count or not? Especially over here that what? That the voice of a person who's speaking completely gets cut and it's completely hidden from the world. Just that the voice causes over here what? Causes a change in the electrical energy, which causes at the end ba'ofan mechni, which causes at the end in a mechanical way, for the membrane of the microphone to shake through the magnets, which we've been discussing up until now. You take magnet, which happened originally from the vocal cords. It's not considered the voice of a person at all. And even regarding testimony, you have a doubt over here. Since it's a gezeirus akasav hu to be in and dakum it has to be from a person's mouth. Because if they heard in a bezdin a testimony through a microphone, which, as we said, it takes the sound waves and converts it into electrical waves, and then tries to reconvert it into sound waves again through the movements of the membrane and the membrane on the speaker. It could be even if the witness is standing right in front of the judges. Surprise, surprise. So and they see him right in front of him. How he is. They see he's right in front of him. Surprise, surprise. Could be that the judges aren't hearing the testimony from the mouth of the witness. They're hearing the testimony from the mouth of the membrane of the speaker on the microphone. You wouldn't even fulfill your obligation of testimony, even if it was right in front of you in the same room and they see him. Gamra Isi b'Mesudas David. I saw in the Mesudas David from the Rav Feldman Shekosa b'Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Megilah. He writes, "B'chini Marsha Layos Amen Achar Baruch Hu Chaver Shemay Dal Telephone Ayin Shilos Veteshuvos Minchas Yitzchak." So he says, "Could you answer Amen after your friend says Baruch Hu on the phone?" Look over there, the Tshuvas, the Minchas Alazar, and other Achronim. They talk about this. According to what we said. This listening could have the halachic status of the flags that they waved in Alexandria, Mitzrayim, that the room was massive. There were thousands of people that davened there. They couldn't hear everything. They waved flags to let everyone know what they were up to. The chashav rakin odeya be'eza bracha shashliach sibor made v'lo yoser. It was considered what that they only knew what bracha the chazan was standing at, but he didn't know more. So accordingly, it appears that you cannot answer Amen for the bracha that you're obligated to answer to. That's if you're in the actual shul, you're in the same building, then you could answer. Then you could answer through that. Because that would be similar to the Alexandria Mitzrayim. You're in the same room. Conversely, telephone. If you're standing far away and you hear through the phone, you shouldn't answer amen to any bracha. It's considered an amen in vain.
Telephone.
On a telephone or Zoom. You're in a different room, it's an amen in vain because it's a different voice.
But the microphone would...
Microphone also. No, microphone's the same room. That might not be in vain, right, but you can't be yotze through that if it's in the same room.
But they were yotze in Alexandria, though.
They were yotze in Alexandria. No, they weren't yotze, but they were able to answer amen. If you can't hear, you can't be yotze.
So they
were able to answer amen.
But they weren't being yotze.
Of course you can. If you can't hear, how can you be yotze?
If you're in the same room with the microphone.
Same room microphone, you could answer.
Amen. Not be yotze.
Different room, nothing doing.
Good.
No good. It's an amen levatala. You're hearing the bracha not from the mouth of a person. You're hearing it from the membrane of the speaker and the microphone. Just if you're in the you should not answer amen after the bracha. Kal v'chomer. If you're going to hear the voice of the shofar and make a Megilah, Kal v'chomer lefiza sheshameh kol shofar. Make a Megilah stam bracha al yidei radio sheino yisek klal shu mitzvah gam min rash leino sameh chachamavach. If you hear someone laning the Megilah on a radio, live stream, Zoom, phone, you shouldn't answer amen at all. That's coming from the mavarna atzmo. So you're only hearing voices. You're hearing wood. You're hearing rocks. It's nothing. It's not hearing the voice of a person. Radio, telephone. The radio live stream Zoom is even worse than a telephone or a loudspeaker. Kichutz mizesha microphone kolit esa kol adam moilich the mishrad rachs mami mishtanu kimo betelephone afkan ze yesh kamshim inu mahochim kal yoshel a magnet shebe miklad haradio el betachila same. It's not as much as a direct connection, right? The flows change, but over here it's not directly going into the magnet that's collecting it in the radio. El betachila him first it's going in. Nisiyim as Algali radio vayotzim meha misrad asher yerotzu boisim hamahiro shel haor v'imam aliyim kan as atafki shechut mosim telephone b'achachach lidei kamim minim akshir matzli. There's more steps in the process for the voice to come out and for it to change. Shebetocha maklit shekibel shposel shabbos shabo my microphone my malkim malchim my yotzim misrim mushim kachach moshech kachach avardi bosim gabol zoom b'diuk also mazuk. So therefore it would be more of an issue. Kitzur Advarim, he says. To summarize this at the end, he says, get the microphones out of the shul. Hiyosha, that we learned about this by Havdalah also. Get them out of the chasanas under the chuppahs. Hiyosha davar ze nechshev rak ki anaf asujim shayich Alexandria shel Mitzrayim ladas heichen achaz anoime betfilah so val iev shar klal l'tzit b'shutza b'shutza. Okay, this is a repetition we already saw. V'av shi'odei ani shirabim. Even though I know a lot of people will wonder on what I'm saying over here. Ukamo zarya davar b'neim. This is like foreigner. Who's this weirdo? What's going on? Im kol zol sa'em esu geverino. Everything that I just said is true. The truth is, this is only considered foreign and weird if it goes into the ears and people listen to this that don't understand the technological advancements properly. They think foolishness that the voice of the telephone has the ability to transfer these the voice as is. In order to remove from the hearts this grave mistake, this large mistake, I had a lot of length to explain this. I spoke to experts regarding people who are experts in the technology of microphones and all these other electronics. They agreed with me to what I said. In the footnote over here, he quotes, this is the Chazon Ish. I spoke with the Chazon Ish. After this was printed, I spoke to the Chazon Ish, and he told me this is not so simple. And he said, "V'yasakin the kevan shakol nishma noitzal yidei medaber v'gama kol nishma miyad kiderach medaber." After the Chazon Ish says it's possible, since when a person speaks and also the voice is being heard very, very fast, it's possible that is considered as if you are hearing the actual voice of the person talking or blowing the shofar. Kimaduna, lisha srichem lomer shalafize. The Mashamar, that which the Gemara says that if the call of the echo you heard, you wouldn't fulfill your obligation. That is because it's the echo is heard a little bit after the amount of time. Conversely, on a phone, you hear it immediately. Says Rav Shelomo Zalman Auerbach, this is a big chiddush. Ve'ein ani meven also, and I do not properly understand it. Okay, this is the tshuva of Rav Shelomo Zalman Auerbach. With the 3 minutes that we have, I just want to quickly go through this last tshuva from Rav Yosef that we didn't actually do.
With the non-electric megaphone, that would be fine. You know, that the like the cheerleaders have, you know, those things that seems to be
that would be less of an issue. Yeah. This is the tshuva from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach in the Shilos Veteshuvos Minchas Yitzchak Simin Nun Daled. This is talking about if you hear Megilah in a shul from a chazan or someone who's using a microphone, would you fulfill your obligation or not? So he says that those people that are sitting next to the chazan and that they could hear it clearly, the laning of the Megilah, even without the electrics involved, so they would certainly fulfill their obligation. Similar to the Gemara in the beginning of Sukkah and Beis Daled Shonos Karnaim Ikasel Sukkah, and even through the microphone, right? If you could hear the voice. It wouldn't be a problem because at the end of the day, you're sitting near him and you could hear the Megilah from someone who's obligated and it's kosher. The question is, if you're sitting further away from the chazan, had it not been for the electronics, so then you wouldn't be hearing it. So that's going to already be a question. The Shilos Veteshuvos Minchas Yitzchak says that someone who hears through a telephone the voice of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah and the Mikra Megilah on Purim, would he fulfill the obligation? He writes that it's obvious that by shofar you would not fulfill your obligation. This is similar to what it says in Rosh Hashanah with the pit case. If you blow it in a pit, you wouldn't fulfill your obligation. Similarly, the voice on the phone, if so then it's mixed, so to say, and it's not like the voice of a person who's talking, and therefore certainly also the voice of the shofar is going to be mixed and it's going to change, and it's going to change just like and it's going to change like the way that it is on a phone. You wouldn't fulfill your obligation. However, regarding Megilah, so then this is already more of a question. I didn't find that it could necessarily be prohibited because the truth is in the Megilah, the voice would not be invalid if it thickens the voice, so to say, through the telephone. Rabbi Yosef Engel, he talks about this, the shofar and the Megilah through the phone. And he says that I saw that they talk about this, and he says that it's not the voice of a person that's coming to the ears, and therefore it's different. And also he says that as well, and he goes through that. And similarly, we find in the Shilos Veteshuvos Chaya Arya, he said you would not fulfill your obligation through the telephone because in the mitzvah said you have to do it with intention. So if you change it, so then that would not be good; it would invalidate it, and that's why the Shilos Veteshuvos Bar Liyai says regarding matzah, machine matzah, it could be a problem because it's changed. It's a whole discussion in of itself, obviously. And the truth is that the experts in technology regarding this electrics, they will say that the voice does change. It's not the voice of the person that said it. It's through the membrane in between, like we just saw. The Halach Ketanos he quotes, and he quotes the Shilos Veteshuvos Plata. He quotes the Abia Omer. That's the Abia Omer. I think we already saw this. This is Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. We already saw. We could skip this. And then he said, Moshe Feinstein, we already saw that tshuva. He said you wouldn't. Okay, fine. We already saw the
would be okay.
that was in the hospital, Shasa Dechak, if there was no one else with the Havdalah case. And this is the tshuva that he has. And then he quotes the C. Pesach Frank. Oh, he says Ramosha wasn't explained to him properly over here through this, and for sure you wouldn't be Yotze. He says that. However, he says that by Megilah, this is like shofar, you wouldn't fulfill your obligation. And then at the end of the tshuva, he says if you hear it through the microphone, you would not fulfill your obligation. However, if you're sitting near the chazan and it had not been for the microphone, you would hear anyways, then you would fulfill your obligation. That's Rav Avadia's difference that he makes in this halacha.
If you're close enough that you wouldn't
If you're close enough, you wouldn't hear it. That's the chiddush of the tshuva. That's right. Had not been for the microphone, then you would fulfill your obligation. That's his tshuva. Okay.
Very good.
We did it. It was tough, but we did it 4 sessions.
Very good. It was great stuff.
Yeah. So this is seriously minute. All right. Have a good day.
Go ahead.
Yeah. David, questions?